let's talk about John Leguizamo. I think our final topics is going to be more or less heavily about drag queens and things. So John Leguizamo is out promoting his new show that he has on some, I forget the name of it, but it's something about indigenous people, something or another. And he was on The View, I know, promoting it on some channel that I don't even know where the fuck it is. But he recently did an interview where he was promoting this new show that he's doing. And he was talking to Andy Cohen about To Wong Fu and his experience of being on set with Patrick Swayze. Now, for those of you who don't remember, like I was saying, like I don't like speaking ill of the dead, but since John Leguizamo is spilling tea, we're gonna talk about it on the show. So, you know, for those of you who don't know, Patrick Swayze passed away of pancreatic cancer in 2009 at age 57. And John Leguizamo was on there and they talked about it. And Andy Cohen asked him a question. And he thought, like, they had like this great relationship, whatever the case was. But John Leguizamo had said otherwise. And here's the thing, I'm glad he confirmed all of this because I've heard stories over the years of John Leguizamo butting heads with Patrick Swayze on the set of To Wong Fu. And it was also in the clip. I was also excited when he mentioned that because I've been saying this for the longest. I'm like, can we please get a Tu Wong Fu musical? Apparently, there is one in the works over at the West End in the UK. Can y'all bring that to Broadway and then put some actual drag race girls that could sing up in it? First of all, get Jinx Monsoon to play Vita. If you could do that, bitch, I will definitely be there with bells on opening night. But anyway, let's get this clip up and running. Who do you think should play? We'll come back to that in a second. Who do you think should play Chi Chi? And who do you think should play Noxzema? I have my thoughts. We'll hold on to that. But anyway, let's get to this clip and then we'll talk.
I want to talk to you about two more of your movies before we get into The Green Veil. One is To Wong Fu, which I loved so much.
An important film. Very important
film. It was so before its time. I'm going to say that was like 94.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that when it was?
Yes. But it was very important because a lot of transgender kids, LGBTQ plus kids come up to me who are now, I guess, a little older.
Yeah.
But they said because of that show and my character,
yeah,
they felt confident to come out to their parents.
Wow.
And I felt like, wow, that's what art's supposed to do.
Yes.
Art's supposed to give people courage. Art is supposed to teach people empathy. That's what I got in the business for.
And it's so unusual. I mean, you, Wesley Snipes, and the
Patrick
Swayze.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Drag. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
All I hear about Patrick Swayze was just what an absolute angel he was. Oh, interesting.
That's different than what I experienced.
Oh, is that true? Is that true?
Diva. No. Diva. He was just rest in peace. I love him.
Yes.
He was just neurotic.
He was.
Yo, and I'm not, I'm neurotic too, but I don't know. He was just, it was difficult.
A perfectionist?
Just neurotic. I don't know. I just neurotic. I think maybe a tiny bit insecure. And then Wesley and I we vibed because, we're people of color and, and, we got each other and I'm also like an improviser.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that. He couldn't keep up with it. And it would make him mad and upset sometimes. He'd be like, are you going to say a line like that? I go, me, I'm going to do me. I'm going to just keep making up lines. He goes, well, can you just say the line the way it is? I go, I can't. Wow. And the director didn't want me to.
Yeah. So it was really a creative, you approach the work differently and that
way differently, right? Like I invent my role. I rewrote that role.
Yeah.
I expanded that role.
Yeah.
Because that role was nothing.
Yeah.
Douglas Carter Bean may disagree because he wrote the script, but he knows what I brought to it. He knows.
He's amazing.
Okay, so we're gonna stop it there. And I also found nothing wrong with what John Leguizamo said. He spoke about his experience, and I saw like some people on social media, especially when I posted this the first time when I did the article, and people in the comments, some people felt that he shouldn't have. You can't speak ill of the dead. Why are you sitting here saying all this other stuff? You sound bitter, blah blah blah. And I'm like, how was me speaking about my experience with a certain actor? I said, like, one of the things about John Leguizamo, he's been very open about his experiences with certain actors. I remember he told the story about working with Steven Seagal on a set of Executive Decision, which I think they killed off his character. They killed off what the hell's his name? Steven Seagal in the middle. Thank God, because he's such a terrible actor. But I did like his earlier stuff, like Above the Law, Marked for Death. Like those were some good movies. But then the later stuff, with him trying to do where he would beat people up by voguing them to death. I was like, this is me always reading Aikido. My father used to always get mad at me for doing that because my father studied Aikido. So I was like, y'all basically just be voguing. There's like martial arts with voguing moves and shit because it's all hands. So, or some people call it whacking. But I saw no issue with what John Leguizamo said, because I've always heard stories over the years about how he and Patrick Swayze butted heads. Patrick Swayze to me seems like someone who was like, very much trained. I think he came up in the theater. So, they're all trained to be very much if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. Like everything has to be by the book, on the stage, that sort of thing. It has to be in the script. Whereas John Leguizamo is a comedian. He's someone who freestyles, improvises. And I remember like one of my strong points was when I started taking acting classes like in my late teens or early 20s and stuff. One of the things, when I studied acting and stuff, the thing that I gravitated more towards was improv classes. I loved improv classes because they always made you do these scenarios where it's just like you could ping pong off each other. And it's a great muscle to have too, because it's like you react basically to what your partner is doing and then so on and so forth. So it's sort of like I said, playing tennis or ping pong or whatever the case was. It's like they throw something at you, you throw it back. And then sometimes when it comes to improv, it makes the character, it makes the scenario even more interesting, because sometimes, especially if you're a comedian or you're naturally funny or whatever the case was, sometimes when them jokes be in that script, that shit don't be working. And I'm sure I think that's why I think a lot of people resonated. Well, for me personally, I resonated with Chichi Rodriguez more than any of the characters in the movie, because Chichi was the funny one. Chichi always had them sassy one-liners, and you puta Spanish fly, and then or she would say, you gringa with a pinga. Remember that line? She would say all the crazy stuff up in there, and those lines. It's like there's no way in hell someone in the script came up with gringa with a pinga. Like, there was somebody coming up with that, or with what was damn? I was like, even the way she would deliver something like my sanctuary, how she would do her mouth and all other stuff. So just the way that she. And here's the thing. Shout out to my friend Larissa Dumont, because that's who Chi-Chi was molded after. And John Leguizamo will tell you this in stories, that he was inspired by Larissa Dumont. And Larissa, for those of you who don't know, because there's a line about Princess Larissa in the movie. That's why I immediately gravitated to it, because Larissa was one of those drag queens like Harmonica Sunbeam and so many others that I grew up with, like Karen Covergirl. And if you ever went to Esquilita in New York, that was where Larissa performed, and so many of the other places, especially in clubs in Jackson Heights and stuff. And if you ever go to Queen's Pride, you will definitely see Larissa Dumont up there as the MC. So, which is next month, by the way. And you'll probably see me out there if y'all from New York. But anyway, I say all this to say, so it's like, I totally believe that he did mold that character into more than what initially was on the page. And I could definitely see why he and Patrick butted heads, because it's like, he's the only white queen on the show. And I want to also give a shout out to my friend, speaking of Harmonica Sunbeam, one of my friends, DJ Relentless, who was Harmonica's DJ back in the day when they used to do her tea dance at Esquilita, had told me, when I posted this story, he told me a story about how he was actually into Wong Fu. First of all, every queen that lived in New York City was in that damn movie. But he told me that his scene was cut, because there was a scene that he was put in where Vita kisses him on the cheek, because he brings them upstairs to the first scene where they actually get to meet John Leguizamo, to where they released the line, "Little Latin boy in drag, why are you crying?" Like that whole line. My friend was in that scene, but they cut it. So, as I said, every queen in New York was in that damn movie. RuPaul is Rachel Tension, which I never got that joke back then, but I was like, I get it now. It's like, and then she had the Confederate flag dress on. I got the reference. Like, people still clown Ru for that, but I'm like, it was part of the movie. And it's always about twisted sense of humor and all that other stuff. And then the line about, I don't know who he is, with the guy with the chain on, and it was like, but it was a snowstorm tonight. He's going on my tires. I remember one time she delivered that line on RuPaul's Drag Race. I was like, I know the reference. But I wrap all this up to say, because I could go on a whole tangent about Tu Wong Fu all day, because that's like one of my all-time favorite drag movies. Everybody talks about Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is getting a sequel, but I resonated more with To Wong Fu, because I feel like that was more of a mainstream Hollywood movie, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing when, since he did mention that To Wong Fu is being made into a play, a Broadway play over at the West End. And I'm really hoping that what happens is, because I've been saying this for the longest, why don't they bring that to America for that to be a Broadway show? Like, I definitely would go to see, and you know how many homosexuals would be up in there watching that? I'll be one of them. So, now I did say who should play the characters, but now I want Jinx Monsoon as Vita Bohem. I want Noxzema Jackson. Who should play Noxzema? We need somebody. We need a black drag queen. Who's a black out here that can say? We can get Monet Exchange, because she's a good singer. Or, child, I'll even go as far as like make her trans. Let's get Laverne Cox or one of them up there to play her, and then to play Chi Chi. I know I'm thinking mostly Drag Race girls. I'm like, I was thinking Miss Vanjie. But look, I'm sure there's enough drag queen. Cause look, one of the main things about New York is a lot of the queens will tell you they got a theater background. They came up in the trenches of trying to get in the theater, but a lot of times it's real difficult. So the next best thing, they jumped into drag. So I'm sure there's enough drag queens that works over in Hell's Kitchen that are theater girls that could audition for this, and y'all could give them an opportunity. It shouldn't always be about a big name. So let's get some unknowns up in there. So if there's so look, when they come to New York and they looking to bring some people up in there to make To Wong Fu into a Broadway thing, I need my drag queens in New York City to assemble and make this shit happen.